In a world where it is just a person and their blocks, one must create their own adventures. In pursuit of that very thing, one man's quest for sand turns into a fight for freedom. Everyone, you must gather at the amphitheater. I've returned from my journey, and I have a tale to tell. Come on, everyone, cartographer man, that means you. Come on, to the amphitheater. Stop your trading this instant and get over to the amphitheater. It's 5 feet away. Come on. Mr. Smith, that means you. Get up. Come on, let's go. You're so far away over here. Jeez. Everyone, to the amphitheater. Put your drinks down. Come with me. Back to the amphitheater. I have a story to tell you. Sir, I know you don't meddle with the village people, but even you need to hear this story. Come with me to the amphitheater. Everyone, come, take a seat, and let me explain to you the reason for my excitement. I have been on a journey that took me thousands of blocks. I mean, this tale involves much travel, fighting, plotting, and sacrifice. But it is not just a tale, for it is true. We started our adventure by saddling up our trusty steed, Benny, and heading off in a north-northwesterly direction. This journey took me thousands of blocks away, to many new lands I had never before seen. I traveled through many vast and grand landscapes, and also across a multitude of rivers and great ocean waters. It was truly a treasure every night to get to sit with Benny and watch the sun set over the horizon. Oh, speaking of treasure, I also found much in the way of actual treasure in ancient buried ships, sunken in the water and beached on the shores. My travels were very tiresome, and I worried for my companion Benny. However, previously unbeknownst to me, Benny has a great skill in swimming. Well, he didn't really even swim. I kind of just pulled him on a lead, and he floated. He's fine. Don't worry about him. He actually rather enjoyed it. And no, he's not dead. He's in the trusting care of the villagers. On the topic of villagers, during my journey I encountered many small villages, more than I ever could have imagined, who all welcomed Benny and I with open arms, welcomed us to steal their things and raid their farms. It was great. As we approached and arrived at our destination, there was yet another village nearby. They were kind enough to let me leave Benny in their care as I continued the journey into the desert alone. I didn't want to risk Benny being overcome by the elements. He seemed quite upset, but I bid him farewell and trekked forward into the desert on foot. Almost instantly, I found something rather peculiar, an underwater broken nether portal. I'm not sure how this was used originally, but it could not have been good. Not too much farther into the desert, and I came across something I really did not expect. There was yet another village. A people who have conquered the elements and learned to survive, and thrive even, in the hot and dry desert wasteland. They too welcomed me into their homes. As I walked around, I noticed a crowd of people trying to get into this one small house. I approached and was quickly brought to the front to meet their chief. He was a rather short man, but respected nonetheless. I told this chief of my quest, and he granted permission for me to excavate sand from the desert, but only in a specific place. I agreed to the terms and started toward the designated area. I didn't make it very far before I passed a raider tower. Those guys looked less than friendly, and so I carried on my way. I finally arrived to the place at which I could obtain sand and went absolute ham. I had prepared and brought a shulker box just for this occasion and proceeded to fill it. Once my shulker box was full, I went back to the chief and told him of my success. I also inquired about the raider tower I had seen. He told me of the many quarrels they had had with the raiders and the constant pestering received by them. He feared that an all-out siege was imminent, and the chief pleaded with me to take them out. Seeming to myself that I was sort of in debt to them, I agreed to see what I could do, but I didn't promise I could wipe them out entirely. Once night dawned upon the land, I took a boat through the river to catch the raiders on a flank. Not knowing what I was truly up against, I scoped it out from a distance. I saw that there were iron golems that had been captured by the raiders. I believe if I free them, they may help me to eliminate our common enemy. I did free the iron golems, and they did exactly as I thought. The gratitude of the iron golems led them to not only help me take out the raiders, but they decided to stay and take out any reinforcements that may come as well. Just behind the raider camp, I noticed a portal. This must be where they're sending the reinforcements through. I broke the portal and then headed back to the village to bring the great news of my victory to them. I returned with much confidence to the chief. But all was not right. Somehow word had been sent to other raiders and reinforcements were coming. Lots of them. The chief was right about a siege incoming, and I was wrong that destroying the portal would prevent any more reinforcements from arriving. Just like that, panic had spread throughout the village, and an all-out war was coming from the raiders. Wave after wave after wave, these raiders came. It felt like non-stop. It felt wrong that I should leave, and so I stayed. I fought. With all the strength I had, I fought to overcome the oppression of the raiders and to save the village. Not having planned for such a fight as this, I did not come on my travels prepared. It wasn't long into the fight that I fired my last arrow. This left me with just a sword to fight, which was fine, until the Ravagers showed up. I really do not know how I'm able to be here speaking to you right now, because they were very difficult and they packed quite the punch. Unfortunately, many of the villagers are not as lucky as I. Having no bow also made it hard to take out the evokers who summoned Vexes to fight for them. However, upon the evoker's death, they did drop a Totem of Undying, which gave me greater confidence in fighting because I knew I could be revived if I did get overcome. In the middle of this all-out villager raid, some of the neighborhood drowned decided to join in the fight against me. One of them happened to be equipped with a trident. Upon the death of the trident boy, I actually obtained the trident and added it to my weapon arsenal. As these waves of raiders continued to come, I began to wonder if they would ever stop. They had to, right? Gratefully they did, and we did come out victorious in the end. During this great fight, many were lost, but it was for a noble cause, and they will be remembered. One day I will return to this land and set up a memorial for them, and properly bury their dead. I scoured the village for any remaining survivors. Tragically, there were not many, and the chief was not among them. However, there were a few survivors, and they're going to stay and build the village back up. if you know what I mean. This adventure was far more than I was ever planning or expecting, but I'm very glad to be here to tell you of it. At this point in the story, I was relieved to be done and to be able to just have the travel back home remaining. I had devised a plan to make returning home a bit easier. At least that was the plan. But first I wanted to return to Benny. I wanted him to know that I was still alive, and I wanted to say a bit of a longer goodbye. I also wanted him to know that in time I would be back. I thanked the villagers that were taking care of Benny. And then I gave Benny one last goodbye, although he was still very unhappy with me. But alas, I had to go. So what was my plan, you ask? Well, I returned to that underwater portal that I found at the entrance of the desert. I fixed it up a little bit using the obsidian I had mined from the Raiders portal, and then because it was underwater, I had to drain it. So, using some of the sand I had mined, as was the purpose of this quest, I drained the portal and then I was able to light it. When I finally got it lit, I entered the Nether, in hopes that traveling through this dimension would be a little bit quicker. But oh, how wrong was I. My portal put me in none other than a Bastion remnant. Just when I thought I was in the clear, the Nether brought more setbacks. Thankfully, I did have gold I could use to craft a helmet that would hopefully ward off the piglins. Even so, I decided tunneling was probably the best idea. I escaped the Bastion and was off to travel in the open Nether. After wandering for a bit, I ended up deciding that the best mode of getting back was to just tunnel through the ground and dig to my home portal. I managed to break through the surface right into a ghast. Lucky for me though, in my perfect bowmanship skills, I killed it with one arrow and no damage to myself. The pigs didn't seem to care about my gold helmet and tried to kill me anyway. I had to carefully traverse the land to avoid them. Eventually, I got back to tunneling. Unfortunately, my diamond pickaxe was about to break. It was not doing well. and I had to craft an iron one to tide me over, which made things a lot slower. So, after some slow digging, and some slow building, and some more slow digging. After all that, our portal was finally in sight. There's this one problem. We're on the wrong side of the chasm. In the process of making our way across and around the chasm, by way of more slow digging and slow building, we encountered a few guests that became only a nuisance to us. But at last, we finally made it to our portal and entered through and are home. From this journey, I've brought back with me many resources, including the sand which I had originally set out to get, and also many new technologies we previously did not have in our village. I have much gratitude for all the villagers that helped me along the way, especially those from that desert village and their chief. I look forward to the day that I can return to that distant land and bring Benny back home. Along this little quest, much has happened, and much will be able to happen because of this adventurer's tale.